Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today we're going to talk about the books that I read in the month of May. May was a slower reading month for me. However, I did get most of the way through The Stand. I'll say that. That is probably I'm going to wrap that one up in my next. I was so excited. I'm almost done with the book, guys. I'm almost done with it. So I'm very close, but today was the day that I needed to film for time constraints and everything, but I'm close to being done, and I will wrap that one up in my I was so excited video that I'm going to post, that I'm going to film, hopefully next week and get that up. So that was a big chunk of my reading time because that is a huge, huge book, but that's definitely an accomplishment. I'm not quite there yet, but very close. So here's everything else that I did finish. Okay, I ended up picking up After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is an author that I really want to read to zero, and now I only have one more book of hers that I need to read, and then I have read everything that she's written. And this one popped up. I think I had put a hold on it for the audiobook because Julia Whalen narrates her audiobooks, and Julia Whalen always yes please for me as far as audiobook narrators go. And so when it popped up available on Libby, I went ahead and grabbed it and I listened to it, and I loved this. I loved this. This was an easy 5 stars for me. I read it really quickly. I just could not stop listening to it. This follows a marriage and kind of the downfall of it. We're following a couple who we see them meet, we see them fall in love, we see them get married, go through all the relationship things. And then we see them start to fall apart and start to crumble, and how they handle that and what they do. They take some drastic measures to see if they can save their marriage or if their marriage is not savable. And it's a situation where they end up taking a full year off of their marriage. So they separate. They have no contact. They live their own lives. They see if they're happier that way or not. And it just kind of goes from there. And you're seeing the wife's perspective, and how she's handling it and what's happening, and how she's affected by it. It was a very interesting take on marriage and what would be necessary for some people in order to decide if they want to stay married or not. So I'll say that, but loved it, tapped it up. It was fantastic. Then I read a book that I cannot give you my star rating yet because it is a 5-star prediction, but I did read The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. I read this with my eyeballs, and I can't tell you anything about it. Well, I can tell you what it's about, but I won't tell you my reading or my feelings. This is a romance. It's an adult romance, and it follows a woman who loses her brother in a military situation. Her brother's in the military, and her brother passes away in battle, and then someone shows up and is one of her brother's teammates, and he has been instructed in her brother's last letter to take care of her and her family. And there's a whole lot of situations. There's a whole lot of things happening. I don't want to really say anything else about that because I went into this really pretty blind. I knew the basic premise. I basically knew what I'm telling you, and I didn't know anything else. And I think that's the way to go, because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what the situations were or anything like that. I didn't know her situation. I want to say so much, but I can't. So I'll save it for my 5-star wrap up, which will be coming up at the end of June. But I read it. Okay, and then I ended up picking up The Silent Woods. This is by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. This is a book that I got on a trip that I took with my friend Jen in Pennsylvania. I found this at Half Price Books, and I read it pretty quickly. This is another one that I ended up listening to because Bronson Pinchot is the narrator, and he was fantastic. I would listen to anything that he reads, so I'm going to look more into what he reads, but he was great. And then Stephanie Willis is another second narrator in here, mostly Bronson, a little bit of Stephanie. And this is a book that I had heard quite a bit about, and a lot of people saying it was really, really good. And I did enjoy this one. This follows a man and his daughter who are living in seclusion. They are literally living in the middle of the woods away from everybody and everything. And there's a reason that they're doing that. You don't really find that out for a while about why they're doing that. You just kind of see how they're living and what their situations are and how dire it can get sometimes. And the need to stay away from other human beings is so important to them. And you see why. And you see them kind of almost go into survival mode for a little while. And then the story of how they got to live that way kind of starts unfolding and you start seeing what's happening. So it was very good. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It wasn't like a new favorite, but it was well written and I did really enjoy it. And then I picked up one of my priority reads this year, and it's another one where the audiobook popped up. So I went ahead and listened to it. So this one was narrated by Rachel Jacobs and Paul Bomer. And I ended up listening to The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. And I didn't like it, guys. I know. And I know I can hear the gasps. I can hear it. Like, I can hear you guys. So many people were reading this at our last BookTube Besties reading retreat. Like, everybody was reading this book. And then it made me want to read it. And I was like, oh, no. And then my friend Candace sent it to me. She's like, I have a copy. I'll send you mine. I was like, okay. And then I finally read it, and this is kind of a take on Willy Wonka, where there is a children's book author who writes this incredibly popular fantasy series and then stops writing, kind of like cut off. And just stopped. And nobody knows why. Nobody knows what happened to him. He lives on this secluded island where these books are set. Like, he actually lives on this island, and this is where his books are set. And so it's kind of like this whole mystique of being magical, like a magical place and all these things. And, you know, just a beloved children's author. So some children who read his books when they were young and wrote letters to him, and he had correspondence with some of these children as they were reading his books, they are now adults. And he ends up coming out of the woodwork and invites some of them to go to his house and to this island and to compete in a series of games where they can win a big prize. That sounds really intriguing, right? I had so many issues with this book. I'm not going to go into spoilers, but if you've read the book, you're probably going to know exactly what I'm talking about. So I had an issue with one of the relationships in here. It was Lucy and Christopher. I had an issue with that relationship. I had a big issue with that relationship because I didn't believe it. I had an issue with the game part of it. I thought the games were really underwhelming and I didn't care. And I didn't think there were high enough stakes for that. Or I think the stakes were higher than what the games were. Like, if you're going to have really high stakes, that this game ultimately had a really high stake in it. But the game was like, really? That's it? It wasn't exciting. It wasn't kind of thrilling. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, who's going to win? Like, I didn't care. I was like, can we just get this over with? So I had issues with that. I didn't like the ending. I think there was kind of like a little bit of a message towards the end that I didn't appreciate. And I don't know, guys. This wasn't it for me. It wasn't it. I gave it 2 stars. I had had issue after issue after issue. And I'm just like, man. So I am of the unpopular opinion that I didn't like this book. And that's what it is. Okay, guys, those are the books that I finished in the month of May. And again, I did read majority of The Stand, which I will wrap up when I do my next I Was So Excited reading vlog, and I'll tell you all my thoughts and feelings around that one. So let me know down below if you've read any of these books. What were your thoughts? And what did you read in May that you really enjoyed? I would love to know that. And I will see you guys again soon. Hope you have a great day. Bye.